Let's be honest, most men don't lose women because they aren't good enough. They lose them because they don't understand them. And worse, they don't understand themselves in the process. You think love should be simple, fair, and mutual, but in reality, it's emotional warfare wrapped in romance. The smallest mistake can turn her affection into indifference. And what's most terrifying, you won't even see it happening until it's too late. You see, women are emotional readers. They sense weakness, hesitation, and insecurity long before you even say a word. When you text too quickly, when you apologize for things you didn't do, when you chase validation instead of respect, she feels it. And deep inside, she starts to pull back, not because she wants to play games, but because she's wired to test the strength of your energy. A man who loses himself to please her stops being the man she fell for. That's mistake number 1, confusing kindness with weakness. She doesn't want a man who bows. She wants a man who leads, calmly, decisively, without begging for her approval. Because the moment you start proving your worth, you've already told her you don't believe you have any. And here's where most men destroy themselves. They ignore the quiet signs, the distance in her tone, the shorter replies, the delayed affection. You think she's just busy, but no, she's already halfway gone. And when you finally realize it, you overreact. You start texting more, calling more, explaining more. You think you can talk your way back into her heart, but all she feels now is pressure, and that's when attraction dies. A woman's love is like a fire. It doesn't go out instantly. It fades slowly when you stop bringing the right fuel, presence, purpose, and control. You can't fake it. She knows when your confidence is real and when it's borrowed from fear. So ask yourself, when was the last time you stood still in your truth? When was the last time you said no and meant it? When was the last time you led with calm instead of chasing reassurance? Because every time you shrink to make her comfortable, you make yourself invisible. And invisible men don't get love. They get tolerated. You don't need to be cruel or distant. You just need to remember, attraction isn't built through comfort. It's built through respect. In this world, women don't want perfect men. They want solid ones, the ones who know their value before anyone else validates it. So before you blame her for pulling away, ask yourself, did I become too available, too eager, too desperate to be chosen? Because sometimes the most dangerous mistake is forgetting that she's drawn to your mystery, not your obedience. Now, let's dig deeper, because what comes next separates men who keep women intrigued for years from those who lose them in weeks. Most men think love is about constant giving, about showing her how much you care, reminding her every day that you'll never leave. But here's the bitter truth. When your love becomes predictable, it loses its power. The human mind doesn't crave what it can always have. It craves what it fears losing. And women, especially emotionally intelligent ones, are wired to seek that balance. Safety with a touch of uncertainty. You might think consistency means texting her every morning, saying good night every evening, and being there 24/7. But what you're actually doing is removing the emotional contrast that creates desire. When every moment feels the same, when there's no space for her to miss you, her emotions flatline, the excitement fades, she starts scrolling instead of smiling at your name. That's mistake number 2, giving everything too soon. A man's love becomes valuable when it's earned, not handed out like a free gift. When she knows your time and energy are precious, she'll rise to meet your standards. But when she senses you'll always be there, no matter how she treats you, she unconsciously loses respect. Not because she's cruel, but because respect and scarcity are deeply tied in female psychology. Think about it. The man she can't easily figure out, the one who's present but not predictable, the one who listens but doesn't chase, that's the man who stays in her mind. Not because he plays games, but because he lives with purpose outside of her. His world doesn't revolve around her validation. It revolves around his mission. And that independence, that's the oxygen to attraction. The second you make her your entire reason for happiness, you smother her emotionally. She starts feeling trapped instead of cherished. And here's the twist. She won't tell you this. She'll just slowly detach. She'll say she needs space, that something feels off, or that it's not you, it's her. But deep down, it is you. It's the version of you that lost balance. You stopped being the man she was drawn to and became the man who depended on her to feel enough. She doesn't want to mother you, she wants to admire you, and admiration doesn't grow in the soil of desperation. It grows in the soil of self-respect. So what should you do? You rebuild your center, you reclaim your rhythm, you remember that she was attracted to your confidence, your mystery, your focus, not your availability. When she feels you could walk away if disrespected, she values you more. Not because she fears abandonment, but because she recognizes strength. Men lose power in relationships not by being bad partners, but by being too good in the wrong ways. You don't need to chase her heart, you need to guard your own. Let your actions remind her why she wanted you in the first place, because you were a man with direction, not distraction. Because in the end, love isn't about who gives more, it's about who loses less of themselves in the process. Most men don't realize how subtle emotional control really is. You think dominance is about volume, about asserting yourself, about being the man. But true power in a relationship doesn't come from control. It comes from composure. The man who can stay calm while she tests his patience, while she throws emotional storms his way, while she pulls away just to see your reaction, that's the man who wins her respect for life. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Women test men not to hurt them, but to feel them. To see if your emotional center is strong enough to protect her world when hers collapses. She doesn't want your anger, your begging, or your defensiveness. She wants to know that your foundation won't shake when she does. Mistake number 3, reacting instead of responding. The moment you raise your voice, explain yourself too much, or rush to fix everything, you've already lost your frame. And once a man loses his frame, attraction quietly dies. She may still care, but she won't feel pulled towards you because emotional chaos cannot coexist with feminine trust. When she says, "We need to talk," your instinct is to panic. You replay everything in your head, wondering what you did wrong. But a calm man listens. He doesn't rush. He doesn't defend. He lets silence do some of the talking. And that silence, that grounded presence, creates tension. It shows confidence. It communicates, "I don't fear your emotions. I can handle them." That's masculine energy in its purest form. But what do most men do? They over-explain. They plead. They try to rationalize a woman's emotion through logic. You can't argue your way into attraction. You can only embody the energy that earns it. When you stop trying to fix her moods and start holding space for them, she feels something few men ever make her feel: emotional safety. And here's what's fascinating. When she feels safe, she softens. The walls come down. Her voice changes. Her eyes linger. Because finally, she senses a man who doesn't run from emotion, but isn't ruled by it either. That's the paradox women crave: emotional strength wrapped in quiet understanding. You don't need to be cold, you need to be centered. You don't need to fight her emotions, you need to outlast them. The calmer you remain when she's at her most unpredictable, the more she subconsciously submits to your leadership, not out of weakness, but out of trust. Remember this: her chaos is not a punishment, it's a test. A woman can love you deeply and still push your boundaries just to see if they're real. And if every time she does, you crumble, you teach her that your strength is an illusion. So the next time she challenges your peace, breathe, observe, smile if you must. Show her that your power isn't in control, it's in calm, because the man who cannot control his reactions will always be controlled by her emotions. The biggest reason men lose power in relationships isn't because they stop loving her, it's because they stop loving themselves. Somewhere between trying to make her happy, keeping the peace, and avoiding conflict, they forget the one thing that made her fall for them in the first place: their individuality. You were once the man with plans, passions, and purpose. Then slowly, you became the man waiting for her approval to feel complete. And that's when the relationship starts to rot from the inside. 4. Mistake number 4, building your life around her instead of with her. You cancel plans to be with her. You stop chasing your goals to spend more time together. You silence your needs to keep her comfortable. It feels like love, but it's self-erasure. You're giving up the man she respected to become the man she controls. And what's cruel is that she'll never ask you to do it. You'll just assume it's what she wants. But here's the truth women won't tell you directly. The moment she realizes she has your world in her hands, she loses the desire to stay in it. A woman doesn't want to own her man. She wants to admire him. She wants to look at you and feel inspired, challenged, even a little unsure if she can keep up with your vision. That tension, that chase, that curiosity, it keeps her emotionally engaged. When you lose your edge, you lose her fascination. When you lose your mission, you lose her respect. Because in her mind, if you can abandon your purpose for her, you'll abandon it for anyone. And no woman feels truly safe with a man who has no direction. So here's a brutal truth. Your goals aren't a distraction from love. They're the foundation of it. A man's ambition creates the gravitational pull that keeps a woman's desire alive. It's not about money, looks, or status. It's about energy. A man who wakes up every day chasing growth radiates something irresistible. His presence says, "I'm going somewhere." And that energy forces her to rise. It draws her into your world, not because she's bored, but because she feels your movement. You become the storm she doesn't want to escape. But when you make her the center of your existence, she becomes restless, because now you're following her rhythm instead of setting your own. She doesn't need a perfect man. She needs a man with momentum, a man who makes her feel like she's part of a journey bigger than just romance. That's where true attraction lives, in the balance between comfort and challenge. So ask yourself, when she met you, what did she see that made her eyes light up? Was it your potential, your discipline, your hunger? If that version of you has disappeared, no wonder her passion did too. Love her deeply, but never lose your mission in the process, because the moment you do, she'll stop following your lead. Every man wants loyalty, but few truly understand what earns it. You think loyalty comes from how much you give, how devoted you are, or how long you've stayed. But in truth, loyalty from a woman doesn't come from time. It comes from tension. Not chaos or drama, but the emotional tension of being with a man she never fully figures out. The man whose strength makes her feel both safe and intrigued. That delicate mix is what keeps her emotionally invested. 5. Trying to make her too comfortable. Comfort sounds good, but too much of it kills attraction. When she feels there's no mystery left, when she can predict every word, every move, every outcome, she begins to emotionally drift. Women crave emotional depth, not repetition. And the men who maintain that spark are the ones who evolve, who challenge her mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. You see, when you stop growing, she feels it. When your energy flatlines, her admiration fades. She starts questioning her feelings, wondering why the connection feels dull. But what she's really feeling isn't boredom, it's the absence of masculine growth. A man who stands still slowly becomes invisible in her eyes. A woman bonds through admiration. She's not wired to stay loyal to a man she doesn't respect. That's the cold truth most men never face. You can buy her gifts, promise her the world, worship the ground she walks on, but if she senses weakness, she'll emotionally disconnect long before she physically leaves. And this is where many men break down. They think being nice guarantees loyalty, but loyalty isn't born from niceness, it's born from leadership. When a woman knows you can handle life, when you set boundaries with quiet confidence, when you're decisive even in uncertainty, that's when she feels safe enough to stay. She doesn't want to lead, she wants to trust your lead. But here's the painful paradox. The moment you start fearing her loss, you begin creating the very energy that pushes her away. You overcompensate, you explain too much. You chase reassurance instead of embodying certainty. And she feels it, that anxious energy that whispers, "I need you to love me." but real attraction whispers, I'm good either way. Loyalty thrives when she knows you choose her, not need her. It's the difference between emotional balance and emotional dependence. When she sees you walking in your purpose, when she sees your strength in silence, when she feels your peace even when she's emotional, she attaches in ways words can't describe. So remember this, a woman's loyalty isn't earned through fear of losing you, but through pride in standing beside you. Make her proud, not pressured. Lead her heart, don't beg for it. Be the man who challenges her to rise, not the man who falls just to make her stay. Because in the end, the most dangerous mistake a man can make is thinking love is enough to keep her. It's not. Respect is. The hardest truth a man will ever face in love is this. Sometimes you lose her, not because you were wrong for her, but because you forgot how to be right for yourself. Every dangerous mistake men make in relationships stems from one root cause: disconnection from their own masculine core. The moment you start needing her validation to feel worthy, you hand over the keys to your peace. And when a man loses peace, everything else falls apart. You start overthinking every text, replaying every argument, second-guessing every move. You stop leading with instinct and start performing for approval. That's when your energy shifts, from grounded to anxious, from calm to reactive. And women feel that shift like a change in the wind. They may not explain it, but they'll respond to it, and by pulling away, withdrawing, or suddenly not knowing what they want. But they do know. They want the man who stands firm in who he is, not the man who's afraid to lose them. Mistake number 6, letting fear guide you. Fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. And fear, my friend, is the silent killer of attraction. Because you can't lead a relationship while walking on emotional eggshells. You can't protect her heart while you're terrified of losing her. You must be willing to lose her, to keep yourself. Here's what most men never realize. When you become unshakable, when your peace can't be manipulated, when your value doesn't bend for approval, that's when women respect you the most. Even the one who left will feel it. There's a quiet strength that radiates from a man who knows his worth, even after heartbreak. That energy speaks louder than any words. Women don't fall in love with perfection. They fall for presence, for the man who listens but doesn't fold, who protects but doesn't chase, who gives love freely but never at the cost of his dignity. That's the rare kind of man who's unforgettable, the man who can love deeply without losing himself in the process. So here's your truth. Stop trying to prove you're the right man for her. Start proving you're the right man for yourself. When your self-respect becomes non-negotiable, everything else aligns, your confidence, your focus, your peace. You attract not through effort, but through energy, and maybe she'll come back, maybe she won't. But either way, you'll be standing tall, not broken, not bitter, just wiser, because every mistake, every heartbreak, every lesson was preparing you to become the man who no longer needs to chase love, but inspires it. Now I'll ask you something real. Which of these mistakes do you recognize in yourself right now? Be honest. Drop your answer in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And if this message hits something inside you, give this video a like, subscribe for more real conversations about female psychology and masculinity, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it tonight.